Hello, everybody. I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today, I want to talk about why an avoidant that is clearly interested in you is still not pursuing you or initiating contact as often as you would imagine someone who is interested. Today, we're going to talk about maybe 6 or 7, depending on what I have time for to cover today, about why this occurs so that you can understand. So actually, the first one is their belief in being alone. There's a perspective they have. Both dismissive and fearful avoidants have this perspective. They often convince themselves that being alone is easier than navigating hardships or a relationship, or specifically hardships of a relationship. This belief in of itself can prevent them from pursuing deeper connection. And what do I mean by prevent them? It's not that some of them actually directly desire, but what happens is they often believe it's going to be too much work. I've had some cases that I've been working with for a very long time, and to this day, a lot of them are still not, like, they still convince themselves it's better. And it's not that they are sad being alone. That's what people get confused about. A lot of avoidants are not unhappy being alone. They want to be in a relationship, but often the things that they spend their time with, a lot of times they almost feel like that's less hardship than being with a relationship. So they might have a lot of hobbies. A lot of avoidants do. A lot of them don't feel the loneliness because a lot of times they prefer it. And they almost feel as though there might be a lot of sacrifice, which relationships have some sacrifice, but they don't understand that compromise is acceptable because in their mind, they were taught that compromise is weak. So they don't want to expect another person to compromise. They often feel guilty expecting you to compromise due to maybe their rigid beliefs or perspectives. And so because of all of these angles and perspectives, often they believe that being alone or without a relationship is just simpler. The next one is that they might feel that the setting is inappropriate. This one is not very common, but a lot of cases that I've had recently with you guys is that your avoidant partner might actually say, I'm okay with pursuing this relationship or going slow. I'm just worried about A, B, and C. And that would be the inappropriate setting. Okay. And so this would be a workplace, a business partnership. It could be that maybe you guys grew up together, so you guys are friends for a long time, and now you are suddenly developing romantic feelings. And so the avoidant individual, and I'm not saying it's something like against workplace policy. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm saying that they feel it, even if no one else would care. It's that they really feel that relationships in of itself can be very difficult, and they're almost thinking, okay, this is another barrier. How can I manage this? How can we manage it? Am I going to lose you? And with a fearful avoidant, they might almost feel like, are you going to one day pull out from under the rug because of this particular thing? Are you going to one day say we can't be together because of, let's say, the workplace dynamic or the fact that we started as friends for many years? A lot of times they will think this way, and it's very specific up to your particular case. So I don't know what your case is. If you want to book a call with me, that's pinned in the comments and we can go over it together. It's whatever you want to navigate. Sometimes you guys think like that I may have to lead the conversation, which I don't mind. I have no issue, but I don't want you guys to withhold anything. In these calls, they're for you and they're up to whatever you're wanting to talk about. I'm never going to judge you. I'm not going to judge whatever your dynamic is. I don't care. It's not my place to care. My place to care is only about how I can make the relationship easier for both of you guys, okay? The next one is fear of vulnerability. Avoidants are conditioned based on their childhood to fear vulnerability, and they almost feel that it would lead to negative aspects. Fearful avoidants particularly, they might feel like if they're vulnerable, you could use that against them and perhaps potentially abuse them or hurt them. A lot of fearful avoidants have abuse in their past, but some fearful avoidants don't. Some fearful avoidants, what they experience is that they may have one very traumatic event that shaped them a lot. Dismissive avoidants will have more of a similar childhood to, let's say, for example, mine, right? Where there's nothing necessarily outwardly showing up. I used to be dismissive avoidant. It's more that your parents were just very high expecting, and to which vulnerability was something that was just not allowed for you. And so you have subconscious beliefs that vulnerability is just not good from one direction or another, whether it's you're going to be reprimanded or whether it's that you're just going to be less than and not be able to uphold what you were supposed to do. The next one is that they feel like the relationship may fail, so they would rather not try. This one is very common with fearful avoidance. Dismissive avoidance may not even feel this way at all, but fearful avoidance, they want the relationship to work. So they almost scare themselves by thinking about the potential of it failing, and then that makes them withdraw. So it's almost like the anxious side of them is scanning. It is actually this scanning for the potential that it will fail, but then their avoidant side freaks out by that and then they pull back. Whereas a full anxious preoccupied person will see the relationship will fail and they will try and overcorrect it. Fearful avoidance think, okay, I see the potential I could be abandoned, that this can fail. I'm just going to check out. That's how fearful avoidance tend to think. Dismissive avoidance rarely feel this way. Some do, but it's not going to react in this way at all. Typically, they just might think that the relationship may fail for a very practical reason, and then they may exit the relationship or not pursue simply because of that. The next one is not very common, but I'm still going to talk about it because it does happen. It has happened with some of my recent cases with you guys, to which the avoidant individual may actually accuse you of something you're not doing. This is actually more common with female dismissive avoidance. It's not always a case, but it does. You might appear very friendly and kind to everybody, and they might think you're overly flirtatious. And you're not, but they think that way. And so the avoidant does not trust you. And so I'm going to explain a common dynamic with a female dismissive avoidant and a male anxious preoccupied. Male anxious preoccupied individuals, sometimes they can be very caring towards a lot of people. Sometimes it can come across forthcoming. They're very friendly. Some of them are actually very social. Not all of them, but some of them are. And they can be comfortable in romantic settings, which is the opposite of a female dismissive avoidance. So sometimes she might think, are you doing that with everybody? Even though you're not. But you're just not uncomfortable with these things. Sometimes it might even be that they judge you. They might say all men are A, B, and C, and you're not. So maybe you're just trying to trick me. A female dismissive avoidant will really feel this way. Male dismissive avoidants don't really get triggered by this nearly as often, but they might feel like you're overly available because you're available to everyone. Male avoidants might think that way, a little more common. This is really not that common at all, but I did have some recent cases where the avoidant partner did admit that this was part of the reason why they didn't want to admit they were falling in love, to be honest. The next one is, and these are just examples, right? I'm not talking about specific cases. The next one is they fear ruining the friendship. If you are a person who was already friends and there was a deep bond, they're actually afraid that if something happens, if you don't like them, or if they do something that makes you mad, the friendship and the relationship that you have will be broken and they will essentially lose you. And the last one is much more specific. If you guys already are pretty romantically involved, maybe you're getting towards a relationship, they have noticed that maybe you're picking fights or trying to change them. That's probably not true. Avoidants are incredibly sensitive to this. But if this is the case, you can just dial down a little bit and usually they warm back up to you. So let's go ahead and summarize. The belief of being alone, the setting seems inappropriate, fear of vulnerability, they feel like the relationship may fail, so they'd rather not pursue. You appear overly flirtatious, not that you do, but you might be very friendly, particularly if you're a male anxious preoccupied. And the female is a dismissive avoidant. This is more common. Fear of ruining friendship. And then during the talking stage, you may have maybe picked some fights, or not even picked, but you expressed some things and they took it a certain way and they might feel you're picking fights. I hope this video was helpful to somebody. Please like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.